brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
said,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, it's 11 o'clock, which means it's time for tomorrow's newspapers tonight. Join us over the next hour for a bunch of stories, including Keir Starmer might have trouble finding British troops to fight in Ukraine. If it's not bad enough having grooming gangs attack your kids while you're away, you come back and get prosecuted under the ECHR. And it's all kicking off between Pakistan and India. They're both deploying military to the border, although at least this border is in the Kashmir Valley and not in Leicester. And why are so many children having gender transitions? What could it possibly be? Maybe we could also look at why so many vegans have vegan kids. I'm Leo Kearse, and tonight I'm joined by Simon Evans and Steve N. Allen to take you through Monday's top stories. This is Headliners. And this is Headliners, where we give you the best of tomorrow's newspapers with the best of today's comedians. First things first, let's see what the papers have in store for us on today's show. The Metro leads with deadly toll from ultra-processed foods. The Daily Express has anger over the creeping betrayal of Brexit freedoms. I'm sure I've read that headline every week for the last 10 years. The Sun has no way back, Andy. That's Prince Andrew. The Daily Mail leads with so much for a bonfire of the quangos. And the Eye has don't charge your phone in a Chinese electric car. UK defence firms warn staff. And the Star leads with blowtorch UK. It's going to be warm, as high as 27 degrees, which is apparently as hot as a blowtorch. So those are the front pages. How are you both doing?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm rested after my week's cruise.
Oh, yeah, you went on a cruise.
Yes.
Were you performing?
Yes, I was, yes, twice in the course of a week, which is about the work rate I like, to be honest.
Yeah, and because I've heard that cruises can be tough, because if you bomb on one gig, it's not like you can leave by the back door.
No, you have to just confine yourself to quarters, but luckily it went well. They were very generous. Like, American passengers of a certain age.
Brilliant.
But extraordinarily well funded.
Right, excellent.
If it goes really badly, you could leave by the back door.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd have to be a stinker of a gig where you just...
I've seen that Master and Commander where he just clings onto the cannonball. Anyway, let's have a look at tomorrow's front pages, starting with the Daily Telegraph.
Yes, the Daily Telegraph. Well, there's a photograph there of a Southport father, which is to say of the father of the victims of the terrible stabbing last year, who has completed the London Marathon and raised funds. And I have to say that's an extraordinary act of bravery and self-possession. So kudos to him, and also to my neighbour, Jamie Doward, who did the same in 3 hours and 20, which I think is pretty good for a man in his 6th decade. The main headline is the Prime Minister plans migrant cut to fight reform. Sir Keir Starmer will tighten restrictions on immigration after this week's local elections, where reform is expected to seize hundreds of seats. I don't feel that the usual metaphor about bolting doors after horses have departed is quite adequate for this.
Did he not think about this before he became Prime Minister? I mean, didn't he come into it? Wasn't he promising to stop the small boats?
Smash the small boats. Oh, no, sorry. What I meant to say was rent out thousands of houses to home customers.
Encourage more small boats.
In order to really emphasise that the small boats people will really should be looking forward to a bumper season. I mean, how anyone, I don't know, I suppose you could have been born possibly in the last 3 years, you might still be willing to believe that anyone is going to get to grips with it. It's absurd, isn't it? I think at this point, to be honest, a lot of people are beginning to wonder if Farage is a bit wet on it, if anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Rather than thinking that Labour have any chance of convincing anyone that they're hardening up and drying out their policy.
Yeah, and there does seem to be a quite sort of noticeable change in public sentiment, Steve. I mean, I think a few years ago, people were like, oh, fine, there's a few guys clinging to a lorry, who cares? And, you know, now people are starting to tire of it.
Yeah, but, I mean, if you asked people about the idea of, a while ago, protecting the borders in a sense of, like, if you are here illegally, depends how you frame the question, but if you frame the question, if you're here illegally, is that a good thing? People have often said no. Unless you really find, like, a slice on social media, and it's a very vocal but relatively small bunch of people on the left who would be want entirely open borders. So I think that those people have always been there. It's just now the topic that was talked about. Remember when Ed Miliband was wanting to be Prime Minister? That was the election when it was like, you can't really say immigrate. They're going to start saying the I word. Oh, now you can't move for immigration being the main topic about everything.
Yeah.
Well, it's
so
extremely visible. It's extremely visible on the street. There's, I mean, the whole UK aesthetic thing, which has become a very popular trope on X, but it's enormously changing the high street, the pub, you know, the public arena. But also, I think for most of my life, I was complacent. I assumed the Channel was an impregnable border. Give or take, you could have a complete adventurer. Somebody could cross it in a bathtub.
And then they invented boats.
Yeah. But it's almost like, you know, the famous thing, was it Columbus, or sometimes people say it's the man who designed the dome on St. Peter's, or the one of the great churches in Florence, you know, where you break the egg and you go, oh, well, that you didn't say you could do that. And you go, well, yeah, well, you were assuming rules and limitations that don't apply.
Yeah.
And it was always available, but they thought, well, we can't do that, can we?
Well, the 4 Minute Mile is a good example as well. People thought it was impossible to do, and as soon as Bannister did it, everyone's like, oh, no, I'll do that then.
Yeah.
So, yeah, as soon as you get the paradigm shift, I suppose, is what it is.
Yeah, it is that. It's exactly that. And it's changed everything, and I think people are feeling afraid now, as not just tired, but actually...
You've got to reframe it. I'm sitting in London in a coffee shop, no one's speaking English near me. It's like being on holiday. So I'm enjoying it.
Especially with this weather.
Yes.
It's amazing. But also we're seeing across Europe, European countries that have traditionally been quite wet. You know, Angela Merkel was always like, we're schiffen das. We can do it. We can take in the entirety of the Syrian diaspora. And it turns out to be a terrible idea. So we're seeing them toughen up, and we're also seeing Donald Trump manage to stop border crossings pretty much overnight. So it can be done when there's the political will to do it.
It's true. It is hilarious that Angela Merkel based her confidence on them managing to reunite the two halves of Germany. Yes, they were also Germans. You know?
And there's this story here as well about autism tests being given to all children who think they're transgender. Why don't we test to see if they've got crazy left-wing parents?
I think it's quite interesting the way they phrase that as well on the Telegraph. There has been a definite shift, and I think it's come from the Supreme Court making that judgment, however unpoliceable it might be, and we'll come on to that later about lavatories and so on. There's a decisive shift on that as well. People have had enough of this nonsense, and they're willing to sort of, adapt to particular cases of very strong, powerful dysmorphia or whatever you want to call it. But the way they say children who think they are transgender, even that in itself contains a good deal more scepticism than the Telegraph would have dared 6 months ago, I suspect.
And it seems like common sense as well, Steve. I mean, if you asked a guy in the pub, should children think they're in the wrong gendered body? Should we pump them full of drugs and hormones and then cut off their genitals? Most people would say, no, that sounds like a really crazy idea. Please don't do that to these children.
And this comes from the Cass review, the Cass report, which I've always liked because it's not been about saying those people don't exist. The people who think trans people don't exist might love the report, but the report does not say that. It simply says, if you've got no evidence to do something, don't do it.
Yeah.
That's like a core tenet of medicine. And this is what this is saying. Instead of pursuing simply just one course of action, the medicine route, instead, look at the fact that statistically you've got a higher incidence of people with autism showing up in these groups, these cohorts of people saying they've got gender dysmorphia. So what you do is you think, I'd like to know more about that, therefore you want more data. So if you don't like this news story, my question would be, why is data your enemy? That's not a good place to be.
That's a great point. That's a very reasonable point.
Full of them sometimes. Not many, Joe.
And also, I mean, just to get back to the sort of more speculative craziness instead of data. I mean, how do you see the transgender?
I think it's cordyceps.
I see the transgender community sometimes acting like a bit of a cult. If you look at is it Cynthia Dixon from Sex and the City, so she played Miranda in Sex and the City, and I saw her giving a speech, and she says, you know, my son or daughter, whatever it is trans. Their best friend is trans. Their neighbour's dog is trans. You know, my best friend's kids are trans, and she's saying this as if it's some sort of amazing achievement. But it's like, no, doesn't this suggest this incredibly high preponderance of transgender children in this small community of artsy, wealthy, white, liberal Americans? Doesn't that suggest you're maybe operating as a bit of a cult?
I don't know about if cult is exactly the word, but there's definitely a connective tissue there of some kind, and it does, particularly the celebrity ones. I mean, obviously, yes, it's a high-status symbol, you know, and that's been satirised for some time.
Well, it's like beyond the Chanel handbag.
Exactly.
If you can just grab a kid from Africa and
20 years ago, exactly, it was
it.
like you would adopt 3 kids from Sierra Leone or whatever, you know, and walk around with those, you know, as if they were accessories. And now it is, yes, your child. I mean, it must be very difficult growing up as a child of a celebrity and being aware that you probably don't have the charisma and the you know, the luck or whatever. Your best chance is to be a Nepo baby.
Yeah.
The trans thing offers a way out, a way to somehow rationalise that, possibly. I don't know.
Make you special.
It's also a way of changing your name, because most celebrity children have terrible names, don't they? So you think, what's my option here?
I've been called Brooklyn. Does that mean I can...
OK, moving on to The Guardian, Simon.
Oh, you want me to do The Guardian as well? This is one of Steve's, isn't it, The Guardian?
Yeah, but he needs to have his mic changed.
Oh,
I was trying to keep it quiet.
Well, OK, revealed...
One good point.
Landlords and hotels are cashing in on the homelessness crisis. So this is, I suppose, another dysfunctional aspect of the private rental business, which is already about to be upended by Keir Starmer walking around with his chequebook, as my friend Sam Ashworth Hayes says. Basically, if you're young now, the government will lure you into taking out a loan that you can't afford to pay back. So you pay a marginal tax rate of 40%, and they will then tax all that money to take from you so as to pay for accommodation for people who can't afford it, so that you will raise the price and put it beyond your reach on the money that you've got left after you've been taxed. It's so unbelievably dysfunctional. I'm amazed. I know millionaires are leaving London now. I can't believe anyone under 30 is not...
Anybody who can afford a boat ticket. I think, you know what, those small boats, they're going to be getting more use on the return journey pretty soon. And, Steve, I mean, this, to me, it smells slightly of corruption, because we've got the government taking lots of money off people to give to their cronies in the private rental section to house these illegal migrants that they could easily just stop the illegal migrants coming. It almost seems like, you know, there's a lot of money sloshing around that could be falling into people's pockets.
Well, the dodgy thing is that it says that they're paying way above market value, which seems like, we'll just go to a different place that's offering it on the market then.
The market.
Yeah, it seems like there's an easy way around that. The headline itself I don't like, the idea that landlords and hotels are cashing in on homelessness crisis. It feels like by the time you're in a hotel or a landlord's involved, you're not homeless anymore. Do you know what I mean? It feels like this is not the crisis you're in.
I realised I was homeless for the first 3 years of my post-university life, because I was constantly, like, staying at friends' houses, sofa surfing.
That counts these days.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, maybe it should do, I don't know. There is a thing about, you know, when they say far in excess of market rent, I suppose what they mean is black market rent, in a way, or a negotiated rent. I remember I used to sell advertising space in certain business-to-business magazines. If the government ever needed to ever buy advertising space, they paid rate card. There was never any negotiation. They weren't allowed to negotiate. They had to come to you and go, we want half a page.
Yeah.
Oh, do you?
Well, the government is terrible at spending money, and this is why.
Negotiate,
and this is why we shouldn't tax people to give money to the government to spend it, because they'll waste it. They'll waste every single penny of it. Anyway, let's have a look at some stories inside the paper. We've got Britain. We've got The Guardian with Britain's top trades unionist saying that Farage is cosplaying as working class. It's a bit rich from someone whose idea of hardship is a flat white without oat milk.
Yes, I mean, this is the flip side, I suppose, of Keir Starmer attempting to come out down hard on immigration in order to woo back reform voters. Nigel Farage, on the other hand, is cosplaying as a working class champion. I don't know that he is. I think actually what some of these union leaders find annoying is that he doesn't actually have to do that. He is just he has a natural rapport with the working class.
Almost
He's a
like
likeable
Boris.
bloke. He comes across as relatable.
Yeah.
Unlike Keir Starmer, who even when they do a hatchet job on him, he's like, I think I still should be allowed to go and see the Arsenal play. Absolutely pathetic. But I mean, you could argue that Farage has not done the working man an enormous favour so far. The working man has arguably not benefited as much from Brexit, which has been Farage's major contribution so far, as he might have been led to believe he would. But
then people would say that that's because Brexit was implemented by Remainers who hate the idea of Brexit. So, of course, it hasn't worked out properly. I mean, we can see Brexit was essentially a sort of referendum on immigration.
Yes.
And instead, people were like, oh, you didn't like that limited amount of immigration from Eastern Europe. How about loads and loads of immigration from the rest of the world?
It does mean, though, that, I mean, this story, this headline talks about Farage cosplaying as working class. Maybe there's one sentence in the whole thing that refers to that. This is mainly more about whether Keir Starmer is going to try and out-reform reform, go to the right, or is reform slowly moving to the left. None of this makes sense, because they're all pretending it's just a spectrum. And they're going, it's all confusing. You know it's not a spectrum. At the very least, you've got the idea of, like, left and right socially and left and right economically, which instead of being a linear spectrum is then a 2D plane.
It's four corners.
It's a 2D plane. It's like the complex plane, isn't it? Yeah. But the idea that he's cosplaying as working class, he's not, because the most famous thing he's done is had a row with Coots. Now, let me tell you, where I was growing up, we didn't have a lot of rows with Coots.
But and also he dresses like an old-fashioned gamekeeper or something most of the time, doesn't he? I mean, all he is he's capable of entering a pub without making a fool of himself, basically.
Holding a pint properly. Well, it's a related story, so let's squeeze this in before we go to the break. This is the Telegraph now, and the Tories have lost another millionaire donor to reform. At this rate, the Tories are going to be funding the election using Kemi's nectar points.
Major Tory donor defects to reform with £1 million gift. This is Bassem Haidar, who predicts that other wealthy individuals will follow suit. If you read the whole article, there's two ways of taking it. One is he truly believes that Nigel Farage has the chance of being PM and he will be the one to steer this nation towards a better political future. Or the cynical person could say this person who's left the UK due to non-dom rules wants to back the person who will correct the non-dom rules in his favour. I don't know. It's up to you. What do you think is more likely to be the biggest motivation?
But I mean, I think he's got a point. Even if he's doing it out of greed, the non-dom rules are ridiculous. They're just driving millionaires out of the country, and these are the people who not only have pay the most tax, and the non-dom rules were just on money that's earned overseas. So they still pay full whack of tax on money that's made here under non-dom rules. But they also generate wealth, they generate jobs. They
keep the property market stable, which is what allows an awful lot of people to delude themselves that the country has a future. I think they have absolutely shot themselves in the foot with the Admittedly, the Tories were going there as well, because the press against it, the way it's framed, is alienating. But you're right. I mean, you probably saw that capital gains tax has fallen by 10% now, the actual receipts, because they bump it up, and then people go, well, I'll take it elsewhere then. People have options, you cannot pretend that everyone has the same degree of mobility, and some things are stickier than others.
Yeah, and certainly people who don't pay tax and claim lots of benefits won't be leaving, because their benefits are still getting paid.
Yeah, exactly right.
Who's paying the bill for that? Well, that's it for this section, but coming up, we've got the Daily Mail front cover, and we've got lots more stories from inside the papers, including toilet police. So that's something to look forward to. This is Headliners, only on GB News.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we are in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Well, wine. First, it was screw caps. That was very controversial, but we've all accepted them, haven't we? And now it's paper or cardboard bottles instead of glass bottles. Wine connoisseurs will get terribly upset about this, but will we all accept it one day? Probably. What's the sense behind it? Here it is. And it is, actually, there is no glass underneath that. It is cardboard.
Yes, it is.
Extraordinary, isn't it?
It's called When in Rome, a Pinot Grigio, and it says on the front, I have, and King Charles would love this because he loves all things sustainable, and it says on the front of the bottle, 6 times less carbon dioxide, planet-friendly wine. Oh, there we go, Pinot Grigio. So, does wine in a paper bottle taste as good? Let's test.
Hang on a minute, are you just going to talk about it, or are we going to see the water come out?
Should we see it come out? Well, it's going to introduce Malcolm
I want
as
to
well.
taste first. So
OK, we'll taste it first. OK, here we go. We'll pour some.
Mm-hmm. This is Pinot Grigio.
Pinot Grigio. Nice colour.
Very nice colour.
Lovely colour. There you
Looks
go.
good.
That's one for you.
Oh.
How does it smell?
Well, it's rotten at 8:26 in the morning.
I was going to say, I don't usually drink at 8:26 in the morning, but I will make an exception for
Now,
this.
there's interesting. This is something we will ask Malcolm. It's warm, obviously, because it's been in the office all night.
Yes.
Right? So if you wanted to stick that bottle in an ice bucket...
Yes.
Would it disintegrate? Let's ask him. He's the CEO of Frugal Pack, Malcolm Moore. A very good morning to you. Cheers.
Cheers, Malcolm.
Good morning. Cheers. I'm rather envious. Well, behind me, I've got quite a few bottles, but it's a bit early for me to start drinking wine.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, and let's go to gbnews.com/yoursay to see what you've been saying. Mark Johnson says the parents pushing their kids to transition should be tested for Munchausen by proxy syndrome. Not a bad call. Hugh Jarrett says private rental section isn't just a crisis for young Brits, it's also the name of the only soldier who hasn't quit the army. And let's have a look at some more front pages. We've got the Daily Mail here, Simon.
Yes, so much for a bonfire of the quangos, they say in dismay. Figures show at least 350 bosses earn more than the Prime Minister. 1,500 in public bodies take home over £100,000 per year. Quangos, of course, very much the bequest of Tony Blair's government. A very cunning move to shift blame for unpopular legislation to superficially independent bodies who find exactly what the government want them to find, and then the government can say, oh, look, this quango has discovered that this is the case. And Keir Starmer understood that they were unpopular and promised a bonfire of them. I don't remember that phrase being used, but anyway, it has failed to materialise. And
I think there were a couple, in particular, the NHS quango,
yes,
whatever it's called. That was for the chop. But then, while he was talking about cutting that back, they also started another 570,000 quangos.
I know. Look, there is many things to attack, but that one is because they were taking multiple quangos and mixing them into one. So you get rid of two, you make a new one of its hybrid, but then you could write that in newspapers. They've created a quango. If the overall number goes down, that's all you want. And it's not gone down far.
Go or quality.
Yeah, it's Paul goes. It's all about Paul goes. But yeah, I mean, it's a Tony Blair thing, but they went up hugely, not during the Tony Blair era. So it's not as though the Tories can go like, oh, we hated these things. They were using them as well. So you're right, it is an absolute con, this idea of keeping all the blame at arm's length.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very much like outsourcing your carbon footprint to China, isn't it? It doesn't work out in the long run.
And we've also got the Sun here with Prince Andrew.
Yeah, thanks for this. So previously I wasn't allowed to cover because my mic didn't work, and now you give me the one that legally I can't do. Look at this. No way back, Andy. Duke silent on Virginia death. Deluded comeback plan over... I mean, I think that was probably true anyway. The idea of a comeback. There was never going to be a situation where there was some holiday, some centenary or something, and the lineup was going to be Charles, Andrew, like, oh, let's not like it ever happened.
Well, I think Prince Andrew would argue with you there. I think, because Prince Andrew is a man who is not lacking in confidence.
Confidence, yes.
Yes. Doesn't prove me wrong, does it?
They could save the country, couldn't they?
The same level of confidence.
Can we take a blood transfusion or whatever Prince Andrew has been running on?
But it's the same level of confidence
Don't
that
worry, I've got this, Emily.
Exactly, that kind of, this interview will go well for me, this will sort it out. That's the level of confidence we're talking about. So instead, I guess I can talk about Alicia has got her X Factor.
Wow. Who's Alicia?
I don't know either.
She invented the beacons, didn't she?
Really?
Alicia Beacons.
Yeah.
Oh, I got you.
And there's a picture of Mo Salah taking a selfie at Liverpool. They've won. Do you want to talk about that?
That's Alicia Dixon, because I appeared on Britain's Got Talent as a comedian doing puns, and when I said I made a joke about gender transition surgery with Alicia, and I said Alicia Dixon, which I thought was funny. I did not go through. Let's have a look inside the papers now with the Telegraph and Labour saying they won't police trans in toilets. I guess there's no space in the cubicles for 2 tiers, Simon.
Very good. Well, I mean, yes, this is obviously following the Supreme Court judgment. Toilet police will not enforce trans ruling, says Pat McFadden. Suggesting, of course, that there is a toilet police, but this lies outside their remit. In fact, what he means is there is no toilet police, and nor will there be.
Who's been stopping me?
I know. This is the funny thing. The toilet thing, as many people, you do kind of, wake up and wonder, how did we get here? This wasn't the whole point anyway, was it? It was sport. It was the absurd
male rapists in prison.
Yes, exactly. The toilet thing is, I suppose, just a kind of visible fuzz around the whole issue. I don't think many people will expect it to be enforced, but hopefully, a ruling has been given which is registered with people, as we've already discussed.
Well, we'll probably
I will say this, though. I find it quite interesting, the toilet thing. I was just so happened to be reading one of those old QI books, the TV programme QI, they publish books about funny facts. And they mentioned, and I considered this before, there is no actually proper word for toilet. Every word we use in the English language for toilet is either a euphemism, like toilet, which means a lady putting her perfume and doing her face, or lavatory, which is just French for wash. Or it's the opposite of a euphemism, a word like bog or can or whatever, which is deliberately harsh. There's no actual word for toilet. And so it's only the appropriate place where, polite fictions go to die.
Oh,
it's exactly appropriate.
Well, we'll probably go back to the old system before the whole transgender mania kicked off, where, if you can convince us, the onus is on you. Because at the moment, we've got a lot of transgender people who are making me do the transition in my head. And...
It's not an asterisk where their nose...
I'm like, well, I know you're wearing lipstick, but...
But you're right, it's talked about because the newspapers like writing about it. It's not about that. It's like rape crisis centres should be penis-free zones. You could convince anyone of that, I'm sure of it. But the idea of... it's unworkable. The toilets are never going to be a place where you have to get swabbed on your way in and they'll quickly run your chromosome through to see if it works. They make good points in there saying that all we've done now is gone from a situation where if you're a wrong-un, you could be a man and say, I'm a woman and sneak into the ladies. Whereas now what you could do, if you're a wrong-un, is say, I'm actually a woman who's transitioned to be a man and that's why I look so convincing, sneak into the ladies.
That is the scenario Jolyon Morm posted about today, and I eviscerated him in a column which I should have included you in by the
Yes, No one ever tags me in anything these days.
OK, well, moving on, we've got the Daily Mail now with India and Pakistan literally bringing out the big guns, Simon.
Yes, this is the Pakistan-India war. Nobody's first choice for World War III kicking off on that particular border. Pakistan has deployed artillery to India's border as tensions continue to grow with its nuclear-armed rival India following a tourist massacre in Kashmir. Long headline, which pretty much summarises the whole thing, unless you want to go back to 1947. I think there's a good deal of simmering unrest and hostility been felt in the entire time that Modi has been in charge, basically.
Smell that simmering.
Yeah.
Delicious.
I mean, you never know. Weird things could happen, couldn't they? It's a funny one. They have... The shape of India is slightly deceptive because obviously you associate it with the bottom half, but it's a bit of an inverse... I want to say ice cube. What are they called? Iceberg, where like 90% is above the surface. They have a lot of the northern stuff, and a lot of Pakistan's water supply comes from rivers that flow through India, the Indus in particular. And I think that is more likely to be how they will start to apply pressure at this point.
Although the Indus starts in China, I believe, so then China could be
cut them all off.
But the idea that with Pakistan saying that cutting off that water supply would be seen as an act of war, I'll tell you what else might be an act of war: shooting at people. And maybe if you're going to start picking and choosing what you think is an act of war, you're going to end up in a war.
Although I guess Pakistan would say this is a militant group that isn't connected to us. They're sort of like the quango of so they're arm's length. They can't take responsibility. OK, did you have something to add? Or?
No, exactly that. It's exactly that. It's fudging how connected are you with this militant bunch who you seem to be reluctant to disavow.
Which we've certainly seen with certain other governments in certain parts of the world.
Yes, exactly.
I can say that euphemistically enough.
Holyrood.
Well, that's it for this section, but coming up, we've got the front cover of The Times and lots more stories from inside the paper as well. This is Headliners, only on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
On Thursday, the 1st of May, voters across England go to the polls.
In a series of council elections.
Mayoral elections and one crucial by-election.
They'll vote on the local issues that matter to them and let the parties know where they stand.
We'll be here throughout the night.
Live around the country.
As the first results come in.
And from 6 a.m. on Friday morning, as it all becomes clearer, we'll be here to discuss what it means for you.
Vote 2025, the people decide, from 11 p.m. on Thursday.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new Royal Newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock, only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back to Headliners, and let's go to gbnews.com/yoursay to see what you've been up to. Mary Barnes says, surely the councils can be held accountable if any woman comes to harm in public spaces that should be for women only. That's a good point. I think some of these organisations that are saying they're going to defy the Supreme Court are lining themselves up for a lot of trouble in the future. And Mark Johnson says George Michael got caught by the toilet police and then he went outside in the sunshine. That's very true. After getting fingerprinted, of course. Let's have a look at some more front pages. We've got the Times here, Simon.
Yes, Reeves faces pay demand for teachers and nurses. Millions of public sector workers, including teachers and nurses, should be given pay rises of as much as 4%. Ministers have been told in a move that will put further pressure on Rachel Reeves. Feels like a bit of a B-movie story, this one. They're not a proper front-page leader, I wouldn't say, but just a little bit more financial pressure on Reeves, but nothing particularly surprising. This is what happens when Labour become government.
Yeah, all the people who supported them said, now we get our cut.
Yeah.
Now you got to pay for our support. But she is under pressure from all angles. There was just a £15 billion shortfall in something or other. I can't remember.
It's just black holes keep opening up. Well, her policies have been disastrous, as we discussed earlier, because she has ignored the Laffer curve. She has pretended that you can just continue to raise taxes and revenues will flow in. And they won't. People will go elsewhere. They'll stop spending. They'll find other ways of distributing their earnings and their savings.
Yeah, it's not just Laffer, though, is it? It is more about the idea of if your goal is growth and everything you would do is stunting growth, stop!
Exactly. I mean, we put taxes on sugar and on cigarettes and on alcohol to stop people doing those things because they're vices. So what do you think happens when you put a tax on earning?
Yes.
You're going to stop people
using energy.
Yeah.
By the same...
I'm going to just earn and just create growth just with...
By the same logic, though, inheritance tax should stop people dying. And I suppose it doesn't. We've still got the same...
I did a radio programme with Tim Harford many years ago on Radio 4, and we looked at that, and when, on the day before inheritance tax was going to come down, there was a shortfall of people dying. They held on.
He's just reporting, though, isn't it? You reckon?
Yeah. There was an absolute dip in the all-cause mortality rate for about a month leading up to the point at which...
That's amazing.
But the energy costs went up because of all of the... Keep them alive for another week.
That just shows there's also a death toll from ultra-processed food, which you could counterbalance by having changes in inheritance tax.
Will that be used as a sort of like under-the-table form of finishing people off if you're not too keen on them?
If you can't get the right doctor and you can just slide a pizza under the door.
The ultra-processed food, God, I mean, it's a very slow burn, isn't it?
Yeah, and something that's...
So it does seem like there's something in this. When we used to take food from things that weren't factories, we were better. And back in those days, stuff that came out of a factory, you didn't want. You'd pump it into the sea. Whereas now, we get our food from factories and we're not as healthy.
We're getting the effluent from the factory in Batman, essentially. We should be drowning the Joker in it and instead we're eating it.
We're all just grinning on TV for no reason. It's working.
And also, this is slightly worrying. So violent criminals are being tried without juries under swift justice plan. I think under another government, this might be a good idea, but under a Labour government that's got two-tier policing and clearly wants to lock up half of the population, I'm a bit worried that they're doing away with juries that are the last line of defence.
So that's why it's never a good idea under any government. The idea of, like, you know what, we're not quite managed to work our court system particularly well, so let's just speed things up. Come on, guys, let's get rid of the right to have a fair trial.
Chesterton's fence has been cleared at an extraordinary rate.
And we've got the front page of the Daily Express as well, Steve.
Anger over the creeping betrayal of Brexit freedoms. But this is Rachel Reeves is accused of admitting that Labour plans to betray, in quote marks. So one would presume she actually said, betray. Oh, yeah, we've got plans, it's betrayal, by agreeing EU youth mobility scheme. I can still remember the run-up to the referendum. And there are many good reasons to want to vote Brexit. There are many reasons to not. But I don't remember anyone going, I'll tell you what bothers me the most. The only thing I care about, those flipping young'uns. I want the youth mobility. Oh, scupper them. That was never the big... Yeah, that was no one's Brexit hill to die on.
I want to see them walking around with a plank of wood between their ankles.
I'm going to chain them up. Yeah. That's what I want.
I guess we're seeing a lot of youth mobility between Europe and Britain at the moment. It's just it's Syrian men who might not be as young as they claim to be. And let's have a look inside the newspapers now. We've got The Times reporting from the USA, where Donald Trump has shown that borders can be controlled when politicians actually want to control borders, Steve.
This city was a border flashpoint now. The only migrants are quail. Well, we'll get those sorted as well. Yeah. These quail coming over here, taking our chickens' jobs. But this was in...
little legs they got.
El Paso. Quail mobility. I'm saying quail for no good reason. El Paso in Texas. This was where... But to be fair, right, yes, it seems that there is a lot of credit to be given here that they've done the job. Before, it was a problem. In part because when you've got a Democrat administration and they're also scuppered by the fact that part of their broad churches, some people are like, no, we can't possibly do anything. And if you're trying to keep them sweet as well, you drop the ball. But there was no fence in the actual...
Obama deported 2.5 million people, and nobody seemed to mind too much.
Because no one ever talked about it. That was the only way to get away with it. But, there was not even a fence in place, and now they put a fence up, and the only thing they can get through are quail, and it turns out quail's anything great. There's a sense to this. But also, I think it's worth mentioning that there was no solution to this because Trump stopped Republicans agreeing on anything, wanted to keep the issue live through the election, and now that doesn't have to be a live issue, it can be acted upon and sorted. So that's part in the mix of this as well.
Brilliant. I mean, Donald Trump has shown it can be successful, and I've heard, various left-wing commentators say that Donald Trump is stupid and useless. So if he can do it, surely the incredibly smart people in our government can do it.
You would think so. And it is interesting, isn't it, how an extraordinary large number of people came over during Biden's just hunting around for them. 7.8 million encounters. That doesn't say they all got in. Some of them would have been thrown back, and now it's gone eerily quiet. And the weird thing about that is you could argue that during or the immediate aftermath of Brexit and then going into the pandemic, Britain lost a lot of sort of fairly low-skilled workers and so on, people who just took the opportunity to disappear back home, take the furlough with them and so on. And the Boris wave, as it's known, was an attempt to mitigate that, even a very short-sighted, short-termist one. America had no such crisis to mitigate.
Yeah.
They didn't lose people during the pandemic. They didn't lose people due to anything. Nobody emigrated after Trump.
Yeah.
There was absolutely no reason for these people to come flooding in except as a kind of rubbing American faces, noses in diversity, as, to paraphrase the Tony Blair thing on it. And now he's stopped it dead. And he has obviously been kind of arguably... I mean, there are still a few years left, we'll see. But his tariffs and his world trade position has been arguable, to say the least.
Yeah.
But on this issue, he's delivered.
It's also worth saying as well that this is quite temporary, because one of the reasons people aren't making the journey right now is because there's no asylum system there. It's going through the courts to work out whether that's illegal. So if the courts say, actually, as a nation... America can't have no asylum system.
Yeah.
If that gets flipped, then all of a sudden there'll probably a little queue of people turn up behind the quail going, oh, we wish to apply.
Yeah, but I'm sure they can do something about it. And it's interesting that we managed to close our borders during lockdown. Somehow we can't do that now. Anyway, we've got the Telegraph now, and has Sadiq Khan killed off one of the last good working-class careers, Simon?
Yes, I'm very sorry. I mean, this is not really a news story. It's a sort of an observation of a general trend that's been going on for some time. Britain is losing another working-class route to modest affluence, which you might say is a slightly classist observation. I'm sure some perfectly middle-class people have chosen to be black hat. You can earn a decent living back in the day. But yes, it was a way for people who sort of from the wrong side of the tracks, but with a bit of something about them, to put themselves through. And, of course, famously, there was a wonderful TV play, The Knowledge, about the training of a London cab. Another one of those little factoids. Their part of their brain, the hippocampus, actually got larger over the course of their training because they had to enhance the memory of all the streets and the routes to get to them.
Sat-navs kind of
been rendered redundant. Exactly. It's a microcosm for everything that is wrong with the way that apps are basic. And this is obviously going to happen to 90% of other jobs in the coming AI wave. In a way, they are canaries in the coal mine, as they always were. I feel very sorry for them, but it's on its way out. There's no way about it.
And even, I mean, they've been pushed out by Ubers, but now Ubers might be on the way out because we're going to have robo-taxis, according to Elon Musk.
Self-driving cars.
That's the thing, self-driving cars, no one needs to own one. Because why bother parking it?
Yeah.
Because if you just rent one for the small time you're in the darn thing, it's a lot easier. So, I mean, it's, again, the headline. It's true, if you put Sadiq Khan in a headline, you'll get more clicks. But he's mentioned once in the whole thing. It is more about just the end of taxis because of technology.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And they could move on to, I guess there's OnlyFans. There's various options open to them. OK, well, let's... That's the end of this section. Coming up after the break, we've got the front page of the Eye and lots of stories from inside the paper, including British troops in Ukraine could be prosecuted under the ECHR. Should we declare war on the ECHR then? This is Headliners, only on GB News.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
High pressure is in charge mainly across Europe at the moment, but its positioning is leading to some slightly different conditions. Out of Iberia, there's plentiful amounts of sunshine and a really lovely day to come tomorrow in particular. There are some showers, though, lingering around Italy, parts of the Balkans, just to watch out for. And there's quite a keen breeze developing from the Black Sea down through into the Aegean, so it is going to be quite fresh along some of those Greek islands. But with high pressure sticking around, it is going to be remaining fairly settled into next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, good evening. This is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. Don't worry if you missed out on the sunshine this weekend. As we head into next week, even more of us will be seeing some blue skies. It will take its while, though, for northern areas of the UK. We do still have this rain band in play for this evening and overnight. It's quite a damp and breezy period to come for, particularly northwestern Scotland. Dry nights elsewhere, underneath the clearest skies of England and Wales, there will be some patchy mist and fog developing, and we could see a very patchy grass frost as we kick off Monday morning. There will be some low cloud and fog just lingering around the channel as we head throughout Monday, so some of that may just drift its way towards southern coasts of England at times, but inland, once any of that early mist and fog has cleared, there'll be plentiful amounts of sunshine to be greeted with. Still a touch of cloud for Northern Ireland, Northern England first thing, but all eyes are on this area of rain that will continue its journey ever so slightly northwards as we do head throughout Monday. So Caithness, Sutherland, parts of the Outer Hebrides and over towards Orkney will still have some rain at times during the day, but we will start to see the skies brightening for Northern Ireland, particularly County Down, parts of Northern England and southern and central Scotland as well. And then for the bulk of England and Wales, plentiful amounts of sunshine throughout the day, and it will be feeling rather warm out there. Highs between 20-24 degrees Celsius, well above our late April average. High pressure will be building in more widely as we head into the rest of next week, helping to push that weather front even further out of the way. So still a chance of a little bit of cloud and patchy rain for the likes of the Northern Isles during Tuesday, but really the vast majority of us are going to have a wonderful day out there. Plentiful amounts of sunshine, just a bit of a breeze around the far south coast here, but otherwise it certainly will be feeling again very warm, and temperatures will continue to climb in the sunshine that we do have. Mid to high 20s are very likely for many of us as we head towards the end of the week.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we're in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners, and let's have a look at tomorrow's front page of the Eye, Simon.
Yes, I'm sorry, yes. Cool reading. Fascinating follow-up to the black cab story about the dangers of delegating all your brain power to a computer. The Eye payer say the same thing in a way. It's a different facet of the same polyhedron rather. Don't charge your phone in a Chinese electric car. UK defence firms warn stuff. It has almost the ring of a Confucius analect, doesn't it? Confucius, he say, don't charge your phone in a Chinese electric car. But
and it reminds me of the advice given to soldiers when they're stationed in foreign countries, not to have relations with the local girls because they could be carrying diseases.
Many a slip, what was it?
Where's this going?
Loose lips.
That's the one. Yeah. I don't know if that's the exact
Many a slip between loose lips. Something like that.
If they've got loose lips, that's a big warning.
A few years ago, there was a genuine story, and this struck me as brilliant. I can't remember which side did it to which, but I think the Russians did it to the Americans. They just sold cheap USB memory sticks in the markets. I think it was in Kabul or something, and Americans would just buy them and use them to transfer files. And they had in them little radio transmitters. You know, they were like $2 for a 15 gigabyte or whatever, and they were actually worth hundreds of dollars because they were really they'd only known how to use them. But anyway, the fear is if you charge your phone in a Chinese electric car, potentially the Chinese have found a way to download your info. And I remember when. I think it was Huawei again when there was that massive scandal over them being given huge government contracts in this country. There's a big like the UN equivalent, the African equivalent of the UN building, and it was in Addis Ababa, I think, and the Chinese gave them a really good price to install all the electronics. and it was literally downloading everything that happened and shipping it back overnight.
And Steve, you know about computers and stuff.
I'm a nerd, yeah.
You are. I didn't want to use that word.
It's my word. It's our word.
But are you worried about this?
Yeah, only because I watched a video recently about even the USB cable. You don't even need the car.
No way.
USB-C is like an active connection. So there's a little bit of computer that works out which way it's plugged in and stuff like that. And if you buy dodgy ones online, you can actually have a thing that like connects to your device and just Wi-Fi's off some information. Just the cable itself is now dodgy. And again, it costs so much to make them that they're targeted. But if you know who you're giving this cable to, of course, the flip side is you can also buy cheap cables online that don't even have the wiring to do any of the active stuff. It'll charge your phone, but it won't transmit data. If you get one of those and plug it into your Chinese electric car, you fixed it. Not knowing whether you got the right one or not.
Yeah, and we've got the front page of the Daily Star as well, Steve.
Won't take long. The heat is on, 29 degrees Celsius. Blowtorch UK, it's going to be hotter than Africa, thanks to 800-mile heat dome. You're right, if your blowtorch is doing 29 degrees Celsius, you're going to have a terrible creme brulee. But it's going to be a bit warm in what we used to call summer.
Well, hopefully, given that a lot of the immigration is supposed to be due to the climate crisis, this should reverse it, right? Hotter than Africa. People will be screaming back down there.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it is because of the climate crisis, though. I think it's much more because of the generosity of the British system.
The mug crisis.
Yeah, but we'll no doubt see. One thing I have noticed is that weather maps now, when it gets above 12 degrees, everything's bright red to try and panic people into thinking the world is burning.
Some of that is panic. Some of them, people shout about this online, and actually they take a picture that's like a UV thing.
Oh.
Because in the old days, you only had a green map of Britain and you put a number on it because you'd have to repaint the darn thing every time you had Wincy Willis near it or whatever you used to do it. But now you can have the colour depending on how much UV exposure there is.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's that. I'm sorry to ruin what people get angry about, but
well, I'm still going to stay angry.
Enjoy it.
We've got the Telegraph now, and perhaps British troops should be deployed to take out the ECHR, as it seems to be their main enemy in Europe, Simon.
Yes, I must admit, I found this story to be about the worst written story I've seen for quite some time, but I think I've teased out the facts and the general drift. The problem is that Britain is intending... The headline says British troops in Ukraine could be prosecuted under ECHR. The fear is that those prosecutions would come from the Russians using what it calls lawfare, which is to say sort of morally dubious, opportunistic manipulation of legal opportunities. And the problem is that British troops would be sent out there to operate within the legal framework that prevents us being at war with Russia suddenly and accidentally, and if they overstep the mark. But Healy has said that he has no intention of, James Cartledge, Shadow Defence Secretary, has urged him to look at derogation from the ECHR, which I think means getting out of.
Yeah.
I assume. And obviously there are mounting calls for that to happen for ages now.
Well, yeah, we've seen risks pointed out that people, SS soldiers, people who've done things in Afghanistan, then get prosecuted when they're back in the UK, and this is terrible. If you're making a life and death decision, a decision that could end in you being killed or your colleagues being killed, you shouldn't be prosecuted for that back in the UK.
It seems even worse here. It feels like, if you invade another country, maybe you can't sue after that.
Yes.
You know those adverts that were really annoying. Have you been involved in an accident and it wasn't your fault? It wasn't your fault. It's a really important bit of that, isn't it? Rush, have you invaded a case and it was your fault?
Have you
shut up about it?
Have you deliberately driven into a bus?
Yeah.
There are legal limits on what you're allowed to do to a burglar, for instance. I guess it's similar to that, right? If you find a burglar in your sitting room, but he's not presenting an obvious physical threat to you, and you just shoot him dead, you will get prosecuted.
But who tells that story? You fool! He was coming at me with all of the knives he just nicked.
He repeatedly walked into this tennis racket. That's what happened. OK, well, the show is nearly over, so let's take another quick look at tomorrow's front pages. The Metro leads with deadly toll from ultra-processed foods. The Daily Express has anger over the creeping betrayal of Brexit freedoms. The Sun leads with no way back, Andy. That's Prince Andrew with the fallout from the suicide of Virginia Giuffre. The Daily Mail has so much for a bonfire of the quangos. The Eye has don't charge your phone in a Chinese electric car. UK defence firms warn staff, or you may start writing very long headlines. And the Star has blowtorch UK. And that's it for tonight's show. Thank you to my guests Simon and Steve. Josh Howie will be back tomorrow at 11 p.m. with Lewis Schaefer and Nadine McQueen. And if you're watching the 5 a.m. repeat, then stay tuned for breakfast. And I hope you have a fantastic week, and I hope to see you next Friday. Goodbye.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. This is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. Don't worry if you missed out on the sunshine this weekend. As we head into next week, even more of us will be seeing some blue skies. It will take its while, though, for northern areas of the UK. We do still have this rain band in play for this evening and overnight. It's quite a damp and breezy period to come for, particularly northwestern Scotland. Dry nights elsewhere. Underneath the clearest skies of England and Wales, there will be some patchy mist and fog developing, and we could see a very patchy grass frost as we kick off Monday morning. There will be some low cloud and fog just lingering around the channel as we head throughout Monday, so some of that may just drift its way towards southern coasts of England at times. But inland, once any of that early mist and fog has cleared, there'll be plentiful amounts of sunshine to be greeted with. Still a touch of cloud for Northern Ireland, Northern England first thing, but all eyes are on this area of rain that will continue its journey ever so slightly northwards as we do head throughout Monday. So Caithness, Sutherland, parts of the Outer Hebrides and over towards Orkney will still have some rain at times during the day. But we will start to see the skies brightening for Northern Ireland, particularly County Down, parts of Northern England and southern and central Scotland as well. And then for the bulk of England and Wales, plentiful amounts of sunshine throughout the day, and it will be feeling rather warm out there. Highs between 20-24 degrees Celsius, well above our late April average. High pressure will be building in more widely as we head into the rest of next week, helping to push that weather front even further out of the way. So still a chance of a little bit of cloud and patchy rain for the likes of the Northern Isles during Tuesday, but really the vast majority of us are going to have a wonderful day out there. Plentiful amounts of sunshine, just a bit of a breeze around the far south coast here, but otherwise it certainly will be feeling again very warm, and temperatures will continue to climb in the sunshine that we do have. Mid to high 20s are very likely for many of us as we head towards the end of the week.
courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with Skyroof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com